Hello world, my name is CSW and welcome to CSW TV. Playing Harmony requires patience, and that includes being patient about the fact that the class is still bugged right now. To elaborate a bit more, the bug makes it impossible to actually combo your opponent up to half the time. So effectively, you have to combo your opponent double the number of times that it should take. It is fixed every time we have a maintenance, but reoccurs again after 2 days. So once again, I heavily discourage you from playing this class if you aren't particularly into it. However, if you want to give it a go anyway, then let's begin. As you may have noticed, this class has several skills to either launch or knock prone your opponent. Despite that, however, there are really only 2 viable combos. We will call it the Simplified combo and the Classical combo. The Classical combo revolves around knock prone effect of Twin Reapers, which is the skill that is bugged by the way. The Simplified combo does not require Twin Reapers, but it is technically harder to perform, and I'll show you why. Here is the Simplified combo. You use Meteor Fall while on the ground, followed by holding down Phantom Call. Now this may look easy, but it's actually quite difficult. Why? Notice how neither Meteor Fall nor Phantom Call throws your opponent. Phantom Call works by chaining dazes. As a result, you must be at the right distance from your opponent in order to use Phantom Call, or your opponent will be able to get out of your combo. Alternatively, you can use Twin Reapers. Now your opponent is knocked prone, so it is much harder to get out. Note however that Twin Reapers by itself inflicts a soft prone. If you use Meteor Fall, it will prevent recovery of Twin Reaper's soft prone and make it into a hard prone. Thus, it is important that Meteor Fall and Twin Reaper must land at roughly the same time. Impossible? That's because I haven't yet explained the concept of animation cancelling. So for now, remember that in order to get Meteor Fall and Twin Reaper to land at the same time, you must do a jump after Meteor Fall and then use Twin Reaper. Thus, you are using Meteor Fall from the ground, followed by a jump, followed by holding down Twin Reapers. So now that you got your opponent prone, you want to go into Phantom Call again. However, recall that control skills do not stack, so you must chain them instead. Luckily, there is an easy way to chain Phantom Call, and that's by first using Crane Crash and then using Phantom Call. So, once again, the combo is Meteor Fall from the ground, jump, hold Twin Reaper, tap Crane Crash, hold Phantom Call. That's a bit of a mouthful, huh? And yes, the combo is bugged because Twin Reapers is bugged. But honestly, if this combo was working properly, it's actually easier to pull off than the Simplified combo, even though it is a bit more convoluted. So you can pick either or, but just don't get discouraged if you don't get it at first. Finally, you may notice that it's actually kind of difficult to pull off the combo on a moving target, and you're absolutely right. That's why Harmony also has an acupuncture skill. For Harmonies, the purpose of your acupuncture isn't to flaw expose your opponent like all the other classes. In fact, as you just saw, you can perform the combo on a regular opponent just fine. Harmonies use their acupuncture really only to just keep their opponent in place long enough to perform the combo. Now, there is also another concept called set swapping, which I plan to go over in a separate video. So if you want to perform the Classical combo, you must use the auto attack Ghost March first, or your combo will not work. That's about it for combos. Let's take a look at common skill choices. Of course you need Silent Flash, Meteor Fall, and Phantom Call. If you want to perform the Classical combo, then you'll also need Twin Reapers and Crane Crash. Unfortunately, that alone takes up 5 slots. Now if you recall from episode 2, Harmony's acupuncture is special. Unlike most acupuncture, it is unblockable because it technically is considered a grab. At the same time, it absolutely will not work versus airborne targets. That's why for the last 2 slots, Harmonies generally prefer Death Phase and Eagle Dive. These 2 skills have the ability to immobilize your opponent so you can land Silent Flash more easily. So with that said, once you reach level 60, you will have another empty slot. So there's a few more skills you might want to consider here. The most classical option is Drunk Trio. It has some pretty interesting status effect, but it's used almost exclusively for additional damage at the end of your combo. It's also not very safe, so use it sparingly. However, now that Harmony's got Faint Mist, it is generally preferred over Drunk Trio. This skill has several interesting effects. Yes, it makes you invisible, but its primary usage is to either act as an extra dash, pull your opponents towards an area, or create a bit of a barrier since this skill dazes your opponent upon conclusion. If you have the extra slot, you might also want to consider using Synergy. This skill is pretty useless on its own, but if you use it after Faint Mist, it will knock prone your opponent if they are near you. Another possible choice is Hurricane. You can take advantage of its long-range daze effect, or use it for extra damage. Finally, I also seen people use Predator for the daze effect as well. So, similar to my other video for Splendors, I also introduced a whole bunch of concepts that I haven't explained yet. So if you are sure that you want to play this class, then keep these concepts in mind for now, and they will all be explained in due time. If you like this video, then be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for future videos.